Welcome to DDL, where we discuss everyday topics like current events and or controversial points of view. This is Noel. I'm Void. First things first, shout out to our sponsor, Candle Time. Head over to the link in the description to purchase a candle today.
Yes, loving the life I say. Yeah, that's my singing voice. There you go, guys.
We have no life. Oh, it was work and slave. Oh, all right. This is your...
No, okay.
No.
Welcome to Wellspring Wednesdays, first off and foremost, because this jackwagon over here forgot to do the welcome to Main Event Mondays on the last episode.
It's all right. No big deal. What I was going to say is, Wellspring Wednesday, you have something specific that you want to talk about before you rudely interrupted me, you dick. That's why we're friends.
You are what you eat.
That's not true. That's not true at all.
I'm just teasing.
But so we're gonna go over some interesting what would you call it, statistics?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a study done that's using statistics.
That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah, but so we've talked about this briefly before, more or less when we were talking about the roles of fathers and the importance of fathers, and then advent of fathers getting stripped away from their kids, and then
what happens with the children. And
so this study is actually, well, let's just go ahead and swap us over.
Yeah, let's get into it.
This study is actually,
when was this done? I forgot to ask you that.
I should have brought us all the way back. Let's see, when was this written?
Oh, what?
Doesn't actually say when it's written. Interesting. Usually it's up there, but
it probably isn't. We just missed it.
Yeah. I don't. So basically, what this study is the incarceration rates and single motherhood. It's by Ethan Zerberg and Colt Hall. Now, I am going to challenge their conclusion at the end because their conclusion is faulty. If you actually read this study, their conclusion points out one thing that actually does not align with it, and I think it was done for the simple fact that. These are college students, so they can't actually call out what actually is going on with the state, is actually showing. So basically, go through the abstract. Traditionally, the family unit consists of a mother, father, and one or more children. There are many instances throughout the U.S. where this traditional family structure is not found. Right. So, could the lack of a father figure in a child's life cause them to be more likely to break the law and become incarcerated? That's the posed question that they're wanting to find out.
Mm-hmm.
So is there a causation between the state's single motherhood rate and their incarceration rate? And are there two merely just correlated? Does the state urban percentage, political affiliation, and poverty rate have an impact on incarceration rates? These are the questions that the research study seeks to address. So this is a very good topic that they want to do.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm going to challenge their conclusion at the end because they go so far as to answer some of the questions and then leave out one of the most important parts.
You'll see when we get there. I don't want to ruin it.
So in the United States, the justice system is always a topic of debate among political rivals. That's 100% true because United States, we have a lot of incarceration.
Yeah, we have like the most per capita in the world or something like that.
So if a firm theory can be proven as to why incarceration rates can differ so widely, policymakers might be able to remedy the issue. So they're doing this for a good reason. They're trying to help the policymakers determine how we can control or help determine or get incarceration lower or higher or whatever. Possible causes are for high incarceration rates may be the high single motherhood rates, along with the unemployment and poverty rates. Now, another question that a study similar to this might help answer is the question to why America has high incarceration rates in comparison to similar countries such as Canada, Australia, and the UK.
Many people consider inmates in correctional facilities to be dead weight on the economy, meaning that they are not contributing to the work being done nationwide at full capacity. If the causes to these incarceration rates can be determined, steps may be taken to minimize the amount of people in these prisons and correctional facilities. According to the Vera Institute of Justice, the average cost of an American inmate is $31,000 USD a year. A deeper understanding of these issues can also grant insight into other situations such as high single motherhood rates. how single mother
You're
rates may be correlated with poverty rates and so on. Through mathematical insight and several points of data, these relationships have been investigated. And then,
so for the data overview for the study, we were determining if there are. So when they say we, it's the authors of this, not we.
yeah.
So just correcting that, just making sure we're.
2005 data.
Oh, based on 2015 data, yeah. Okay. So for the study, we were determining. You are tired.
I told you.
If there's a relationship between single motherhood rates and incarceration rates. We are implementing a cross-sectional model with 50 data points one for each American state. This cross-sectional data for one variables, right? So they're just basically setting up how their study is. So there's single motherhood versus incarceration rates, single motherhood rates versus incarceration rates.
Yeah, no. Those look.
Well, so right here, I can tell you right now, just by having a degree in understanding statistics. When two trend lines and you're comparing it, there is very high suggestion of correlation. Granted, correlation does not mean causation.
Yeah.
However, correlation is a good indicator of whether or not that's a causation. Just saying.
And what does it say? Blue, persons of all age under correctional supervision per 100,000 people.
Yep.
Red is single motherhood instances.
Yep. So this, off bat, this is telling me that they are correlated. Not necessarily.
Sorry.
So we have assigned incarceration rate as the dependent Y variable that is trying to explain using multiple independent variables. The incarceration rate for the data for 2017 was provided by the Bureau of Justice Statistics. The main source of the annual prisoner count is the National Prisoner Statistics, the NPS program data collection, which began in 1926 under the mandate from Congress to collect statistics on prisons. So let's go to the next high point. All right, incarceration rates by state. So they broke it out by state, and they said less severe to high or more severe. So you can see that right in this area, there's a high incarceration rate.
Oh, yeah.
Which is interesting.
That is interesting.
And there is going to be one other one that shows some right. They're saying after extensive research and analysis, possible explanatory variables included our model. We chose to include 6 variables. One of those variables is a dummy variable. We will provide insight on how different demographics affect incarceration rates across the country. So the first of the 6 variables we chose to include in our model is single motherhood rate, and that's right here. So you can see that, again, other than Louisiana and Mississippi, that right down in here
is the highest.
High. Very high again. Slightly different than up here, right?
Yeah, Idaho's different.
Idaho's different. Montana's different, right there. So, again, correlation, not necessarily causation. But there's other factors. Like the one thing I do like about this study is they actually did do 6 variables on this, not just single motherhood, which is interesting. Since statistics show that there is a direct correlation between single motherhood rates and poverty rates, we felt that it would be appropriate to include poverty rates in our model. So that's actually the next one that they did. Poverty rates by state. Again, look it down here. Poverty rates are high. So there is no. I'm not going to sit there and argue and say that poverty rates do not impact incarceration rates.
Okay.
Like that is a correlation that exists as well. Our third independent variable of our model is unemployment. So that's what this one shows. Unemployment. Again, look at the South.
Yeah.
And again, unemployment rates actually correlate with poverty rates. So,
yeah.
I mean, that makes sense. That tracks. Our fourth variable we chose is the dummy variable involving a state's political alignment during the 2016 presidential election. This one I don't think should have been the dummy variable.
What do you think should have been?
A dummy variable should have been something that should not have any impact. There should be no correlation, and I guarantee that there is a correlation between this one.
Oh. It says Hillary Clinton.
For this binary variable, we assigned the number 1 to states who voted for Hillary Clinton and the number 0 for voted for Donald Trump. This data was retrieved from Politico.com. We do not know if this variable will impact the incarceration positively, negatively, or not at all. So they're basically saying they have no idea, but that's not
They
true.
added it regardless.
They added it regardless, and they actually should have been able to hypothesize that there was
some sort of a correlation.
There isn't a correlation. There is. The fifth variable is population by state. This would have been more of an appropriate dummy variable.
Population by state.
Yeah, because population doesn't necessarily have a direct correlation between poverty rates, single motherhood rates.
I could see why you would say that.
That one would be more of a mystery than the political leanings. And their sixth and final independent variable is the percentage of urban residents. This one is going to have a direct impact as well. Not necessarily, and I guess if you want to think about it, the higher the population, the more likely it is you're going to have an urban. So I mean, this one could, I mean, it is, but I think it's still more of a dummy vehicle than the political leanings, but whatever. So in conclusion, our model centers around the dependent variable incarceration rates in the United States and how those rates might be impacted by single motherhood rates. Our independent variable, we have included 5 additional independent variables in our model that we believe will provide insight into this topic. And then they start getting into it.
This is where it gets interesting.
This is interesting. So they went ahead, and this is just a table of the summary of their statistics. So you have your mean, median, your minimum, and maximum, and then they give you the standard deviation. Now, this is what I find interesting right here. Incarceration rate at a 0.35% minimum. The single motherhood rate is 0.67. Poverty rate is 7.7. Unemployment rate 2.4. Politicals is a 0. That means they voted for Trump. Population, lower population. Urban percentage, super low urban percentage. Then you look at the maximum. 1.42, 11.24, 19.8, 7.2. 1. Now they're saying that this is their dummy one. And you can see that just based on the minimum and maximum, if a state more likely voted for Donald Trump, they are less likely to have a higher incarceration rate. They are less likely to have single mothers, and their poverty rate is going to be significantly lower.
So does that suggest Republican?
That suggests that, yeah, it suggests that it's more of a Republican-run state. But if you look at the maximum, you can see that they're more likely to vote Democrat. This is why I said that this one should not have been a dummy, because this one, I could have called that. I could have told you that.
Yeah.
Like, if anyone with half a brain could have said, yeah, if you live in a more Republican-leaning state, you are more likely to have less single mothers. You are less likely to see higher incarceration from single mothers. I mean, yeah. And then even the mean and median that they showed here shows that this is actually not even that bad. Neither one of these are that bad. And look at it. They still lean more Republican. So if they're doing this to see how policymakers to do this, it means that the people that are in these states need to start voting Republican versus Democrat, because Democrats are going to
destroy
it. Yeah. So what's really interesting here is take a look at this. This is the real interesting part right here. And I knew urban percentage was going to be a huge factor in this. So the higher population density, the more percent urban living you have a higher chance of being incarcerated. You have a higher chance of being raised by a single mother or becoming a single mother. You have a higher chance of living in poverty, and you have a higher chance of being unemployed. And you're probably going to vote Democrat. And because you're voting Democrat, you're getting all that stuff.
Yeah, a vicious cycle at that point.
So their methodology, basically what they're doing is, below is the theoretical model as well as the chart summarizing the data we have compiled in the theoretical model. Incarceration is abbreviated by IR and is our independent variable. Single motherhood rate is abbreviated by SMR and is our exploratory variable. X1, poverty rate is abbreviated as PR and is our independent variable X2. Unemployment rate is abbreviated UR and is our independent variable X3, right? They're just listing out how they came to this.
Oh,
so
equation.
Yeah, there's their equation. So we chose the ordinary least squares linear regression model in analyzing the relationship between our independent and dependent variables. There are several reasons, both political and theoretical, why we prefer this model than other models under prohibit and logic. First, OLS has become a common language for their regression analysis through economics, finance, and social sciences. More generally, presenting results as the OLS means that you have speaking the same language as other economists and statisticians. Theoretically speaking, the OLS model, right? So they're just giving you a rundown why they chose this one. Mm-hmm. They ran this model in Gödel and anticipated poverty rate having the most significant impact on the incarceration rate in the United States. This is because we believe that majority of crimes committed in the United States occur in low-income areas. Now, that is a reasonable expectation to have. I would concur. We also anticipated unemployment rate and single motherhood rates having a significant impact on incarceration rates. Our reasoning for these two independent variables being important is very similar to the reason why poverty rates might have a significant impact on incarceration. Right? So the results and interpretation. So this is their results here. We set incarceration rates as a dependent vehicle, right? So whatever. You can go ahead and read through that if you want to. Population, their coefficient, their standard error, the T ratio, and the p-value, right? So all these are statistical terms. Poverty rate, you can see here, has a interesting. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't see that before.
No, we didn't go over this.
I didn't go in. I read it real quick, and I. Oh yeah. That's interesting.
God damn.
Okay, sorry. I'm gonna. Yeah.
At first glance, this
3 of the regressing variables were statistically significant, while the other 3 were not. That's actually what I was just referencing right here. What I was saying, like, oh, interesting, because I missed one. Upon further examination of our result, we noticed a warning message saying the data matrix close to singularity. Essentially, this meant that one or more of our regressors were too closely correlated with another regressor, which skewed the results. We soon discovered the independent variables population and percent herbage were highly correlated. I could have told you that. I mean, that's why I said population should have been the dummy variable, because that one has no bearing, because if you're going to do percent urban, which I knew they were doing because we read this before we did this, that would have been better dummy variable versus the other one. But what I find interesting here is the political affiliation is not insignificant. I mean, it's insignificant, but it's not insignificant. The following table contains the regression results from 6 different OLS models. For the first 5 models, we regress each one. So there's the constant, there's the single mother rate. For the first 5, we regress each independent variable individually against our dependent variable. For the 6th model, we included all 5 independent and regressed them against our database. So this is interesting because I'm going to point this out because it's interesting. As you might expect, we were very surprised by the results. Of the 3 regressing variables that we expected to be significant, only one was significant. Poverty rate had the second smallest p-value and was deemed insignificant at 90, 95, and 99% levels. Neither single mother rate nor unemployment rate were significant at any of the 3 confidence levels, which are considered by the Model 6. So they're saying this one is the highest, which it is. And they're saying that these 2 were not significant, which the data does not actually say that. If you're reading that right, the data is not actually saying that. While the coefficient was extremely small for the political variable, the p-value was lower than all the other variables. And the adjusted R-squared was 0.591. Referring to the economic significance, all these coefficients are major when they use the unit taken into account. For example, the political aligned dummy variable. According to the regression, a given state has 0.2% less of an incarceration rate if they are aligned with the Democratic Party. This can be explained by the Republicans' war on crime stance that would result in stricter laws. This is economically significant because 0.2% is still a large quantity of people. Percent of the urban population is also economically significant because, according to the regression, for percent of states, 0.4% of the population were incarcerated due to the regression, right? So they're just basically trying to break down what they're saying.
Yeah.
Some of the regressions were performed on single motherhood rates of the dependent variable. Interestingly, it seemed as though poverty rates were consistently statistically significant in the regression. But no one's arguing that. Which is interesting, though, because this is why their conclusion is faulty.
No.
It cannot be determined if a single motherhood causes poverty or if poverty causes single motherhood. We regressed together. It was found that the percent urban and poverty both had statistical significance in explaining single motherhood rates. Therefore, single motherhood rates are correlated in some way with other variables that will go into incarceration rates. And that's what that one's showing. So this is the interesting part. So I'm not arguing with any of what they're saying. I'm arguing their conclusion.
Yeah.
And because their conclusion is faulty. So incarceration is a complex, and this is their conclusion. Incarceration is a complex and unique issue. It is hard to quantify the exact impact on incarceration rates have on any given American state. The study has revealed that political affiliation, percent urban population, and poverty rates have statistical significance on state incarceration rates. This is the part I argue with. And that single motherhood rates do not. So what they did is they looked at multiple variables, and they're picking out variables that actually directly affect, and we showed that. We highlighted that. I'm going to go back up to the table, and I'm going to re-highlight this. Because right here, the correlation between single motherhood rates and incarceration rates is apparent. Poverty rates is also apparent, again, with single motherhood rate. I'm not saying that none of these other factors play into incarceration rates. They do. Mm-hmm. But their conclusion is that all these other factors play into it. All these other factors play into it, and that single motherhood rates do not. That's just not true. Single motherhood rates do play into it.
Yeah.
However, according to the statistical analysis that they did, and what they did or showed, is that all these other factors also play a role into it. Mm-hmm. But when they did do it on their own, they did show that single motherhood rates do play a role in it. Mm. Now, whether or not the poverty rate affects single motherhood rates, mm-hmm. that's the argument they should be making is. They prove that all these things have, but now they need to go dive deeper into it to say, okay, do poverty rates determine single motherhood rates, or do single motherhood rates determine poverty rates, right? That's the next logical step and where you should be going. So this was done by researching several data points and comparing them carefully. 100%. I agree with them doing this. It's this sentence right here. The single motherhood rates do not. It's factually incorrect. They're what they put out and what I've read shows that single motherhood rates do have a high statistical significance. However, that could not. The data that they've thrown out there does not suggest that it is a standalone issue.
Yeah,
it suggests that there is a combination of events that are going on. What is interesting is they say that, and I told you, this is why it's dumb. The political affiliation, their dummy one, was revealed to have significant. And if they would have put just a slight effort into thinking about that, they could see that. Which is why I'm saying the population versus the percent urban population, I think, was the good one. But the population of the state was not. That should have been more of the dummy one.
Yeah.
Because that one would have been more or less tied to this one. So I think their study shows some very interesting results. I think they botched their conclusion.
Fair.
Based on the results, it may be easier for one to discount single motherhood as a factor of incarceration. This conclusion cannot be made since there's evidence that single motherhood is related to poverty rates. So this is they do dive into the topic that I was just hitting on, why I say their conclusion is wrong. But this conclusion cannot be made since there is evidence that single motherhood is related to poverty rates. That's why they're saying that single motherhood is not correlated, or is not a causation of incarceration. And rather than doing the study to determine whether or not poverty rates are caused from single mothers or single mothers are causing poverty rates, they went ahead and just said poverty rates, because the poverty rates do have a higher statistical significance than single mothers. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we cannot discount single motherhood as an important variable in incarceration rates because it is a relationship to the other exploratory variables. It could be quite possible that incarceration rates and single motherhood rates are impacted similarly by poverty rates and other listed factors. That's exactly what I'm saying. So incarceration rates are not just an American issue, right? So this is just a breakout.
Yeah.
But we know based on other studies performed that there is the best chance for a child to grow up, graduate, be above the poverty line, be married, have
Be
children,
successful.
to have a successful life is coming from a 2-parent household.
Yes.
Then a significantly, almost significantly, statistically, how to say it? There's almost no significant statistical variance between a 2-parent household and a single father household. However, when you start looking at the level of graduation rates, the level of drug addictions, the level of incarcerations, the level of being above the poverty line and everything like that, when you look at 2-parent households, very good. Single father households, very good. Almost identical to the 2-parent household, but when you get to the single mothers, completely different story.
Yeah,
they have a very, 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 very bad chance of actually achieving a successful life.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's not a dig at parents.
No.
Or single mothers. That's not a dig at them in any way, shape, or form. I've said it before. I said it this morning when we were talking about this.
Generality.
This is all generalities. There are instances. There's a lot of subtopics on this. We know people that having the father in the child's life is actually detrimental to the child.
Yeah.
And when those happen, it is very important to have other strong male figures such as uncles, father, or brothers, grandparents.
Yeah.
Right. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because fathers have been getting a bad rep
for decades now.
That fathers are not important to the rearing of children.
Mm-hmm.
Fathers are actually very important to the rearing of children, especially to boys. A woman cannot teach a boy how to be a man. Only a man can do that. Now, I appreciate everything that they did in this.
They put a lot of hard work into it.
I do appreciate that they were trying to state that there is some more work to be done on figuring out the single motherhood versus incarceration versus poverty rates. The simple fact is in their conclusion, they said the single motherhood rates do not. And that's just not true because there is direct correlation between single motherhoods and incarceration rates. However, based on the way they did their study, they did not feel comfortable actually singling that out. And it's more or less because it's done by a college university and they can't actually have that probably written.
Yeah, right.
So, because our education system is hijacked by the Democratic Party, who wants to increase the amount of single motherhood rates, because when they start increasing the amount of single motherhood rates, they're breaking apart the nuclear family. Communists, socialists cannot have a nuclear family because the nuclear family is one of the strongest things against the communist state.
Yeah. Smoking. You said that very well.
Fresh and Fish should have me on, man.
Yeah.
Fucking break that shit down.
Yeah, dude, you would do good on one of those shows. I'd just be standing there. I look pretty. That's it.
That's all we need to do. Man, just look pretty. That's why everyone watches. They don't watch to listen to me. They watch to fucking look at you like, whoo, boy.
Shut the hell up. Stop boasting my ego.
So, yeah, it's interesting, man. It's really
it's a cool study, and the more you dig into it, the more interesting it gets because of all the different, like that thing said, all the different factors. But in this one, they just pointed out the ones,
Yeah. Well, and the thing is single motherhood is not the only factor that correlates with incarceration rate. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that if you're a single mother, your child is going to go to prison. That's not anywhere what I'm saying.
There's just more likelihood of a chance.
Yeah. But a lot of this is the feminist movement. A lot of this is the Democrats. That men aren't crap.
Yeah, we ain't shit. All right.
But the simple fact is fathers are important. Men are important to society.
Just as much as the mom.
We are not important for the propagation of the next society, right? You can have one man and 100 women and the society will go on.
Yep.
You cannot have one woman and 100 men and society will go on. That ain't happening.
No. There's going to be a fight.
And that's that going back to those stupid TikTok comments where it's like, oh, this guy has no idea. Men are,
yeah.
Wait, have you never heard of sperm? Have you never heard of generalizations?
Yeah, because one man can create multiple. And
if you have 100 women or 100 people on an island, and you have one man and 99, guess what? You're going to go ahead and have at least 99 fucking babies.
Possibly.
But if you have 99 men and one woman, you might end up with one a year.
Yeah, you're going to end up with one.
18, 20 years maybe.
Depending on,
Depending on the age of the woman.
Yeah.
Society is not going to go on. I'm sorry.
It might, but it's going to take a long fucking time.
Well, then I would also imagine that those 99 are probably going to be dwindled down to probably like 5 or 6 because they're going to be killing each other off.
Yeah. That's what I was
Actually,
gonna
that's
say.
not true though either, because there are studies that show. And Family Guy actually pointed this
Oh,
one
God,
out.
here we go.
I'm going to reference Family Guy because it's the most simplest way to explain it. You ever seen the episode where they get teleported to where all the women are together and trying to figure out what's going on? And
No,
they're
I
trying to
haven't
figure
seen
out.
that yet.
So Peter and Brian and
Stewie.
Joe and Stewie's not
Oh,
in there, and
shit.
Quagmire and I think Cleveland's in there as well. But they're all they go into this like simulation. They have to figure out what's going on. They get through it. They work together and they get out. And Stewie's the one doing the simulation, trying to see like.
Oh God.
Right.
That checks out.
So anyway, the men work together and they end up beating the simulation, getting out. And then all the women, they're just like, Stewie's like, yeah, I had to pull the plug. They just fought each other for like 24 hours trying to figure.
Oh God.
They didn't even make it out of the house or something like that. I'm just like, oh,
That's funny.
That's a perfect example, because men typically will work together for the common good to try figuring out how to survive, whereas women will typically infight. Yeah.
Fair.
Because men are not as social creatures as women are.
Well,
Women
they're
are
problem
more-
solvers too.
Men are problem solvers. Women are more social solvers.
Yep.
So again, that's a generality. It's a joke because it's a generality of the truth.
Feel free to be offended.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to be offended by the truth, be offended by the truth. You know.
Run it.
But the truth is the truth is. Don't hate me because I speak the truth.
Exactly. See that exactly.
Like, I know that there are exceptions to rules.
Yes, there are.
I personally have people in my life that are exception to the rules.
I think everybody does.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Everybody knows that one person that just doesn't fit them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And good for those people, but generally speaking, this is the way it goes.
So
Right?
whatever. You nailed it. You nailed it. Yeah.
Finally, fucking nailed it. I'm fucking tired. Peace. I am, dude. I'm fucking tired.
Thank you for watching. Till next time.
Peace.